And we are live. This is Bruno LARVOL with LARVOL and Friends. And welcome to another Tuesday podcast where we talk about various topics, sometimes related directly to LARVOL and our healthcare SaaS data and software business, sometimes not directly related to that field. And today is one of the cases where we're going to talk about Web3 and the metaverse with a friend of mine and a wonderful expert in that field. SangJin Hong is joining us today from Korea. Welcome to the podcast, SangJin. Thank you very much for joining today.
Hi, Bruno. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited.
Let me say a few more words of introduction, and then I will ask you to give our audience, we're here for 30 minutes, and our audience doesn't know too much about, most of them, about Web3 and about the metaverse and about NFTs and about DeFi. And what I'd like you to do in the first part of that discussion is to give a bit of your background and your professional journey, a few personal things, maybe about yourself. And then I'd like to use the time we have together as a bit of an explanation about this wild world of Web3. And the angle I'd like to take for this conversation is to assume that you're talking to my 83-year-old mom, essentially. And by the way, my 83-year-old mom is wonderful. She has an iPad and she follows us on Facebook, and she amazes me in many ways. But we still need to keep it simple for her. This is a crazy new world for her. So, and at the very end, we will ask you, SangJin, to give our audience a takeaway of your choosing, a phrase, a sentence, a statement, or maybe a prediction that you think would be helpful for everybody listening to us today. Before starting, I want to repeat that we're talking on our own name today. We're not representing our organization, our employer, our companies. So we should feel free to speak our mind and only engaging ourselves in our opinion. So I'd like to start by saying that we know each other for a few years. We met in Seoul about 4 years ago. We have friends in common, and we did a little bit of business together. And it always has been a pleasure to talk with you and brainstorm. And we met also since then. We met once in person and several times in the metaverse, avatar to avatar, in the virtual world. And one of the topics I always have is, are we moving towards a world where it will be an exception, where you meet in person, a little bit like riding a horse to go from point A to point B instead of using an automobile, a car, right? So we can also discuss that as well. Let me pass the microphone to you, and maybe you can give us a couple of minutes of who you are and your professional and personal journey.
Okay. Thank you, Bruno. So my name is SangJin Hong. I'm mostly based in Seoul, Korea. So I studied computer science. So I'm programmer or developer by training. I had quite a journey in my career. I spent most of time my early career at Microsoft as a product manager, where I was in IT industry in Korea, globally, to interact with many people, try to make impact through software at Microsoft, which is, I think, sort of similar, which I guess carved the path of what I'm doing right now. And then since then, I was a management consultant for a while. I was in financial industry for a while. I was an entrepreneur. And more recently, about 5 years ago, just before I met you, Bruno, I really got into this crypto blockchain industry, mostly through as an investor, and also advisor with my firm company, Chain Cabinet. We're based in Seoul and Singapore. We mostly help startups in blockchain space by investment as well as advisory. And since then, the journey has been very interesting because of my background, which has a little bit of technicality as well as finance and consultancy. I think I've been fortunate to be in crypto global community where I met a lot of different background people and I was able to contribute in many different aspects. And along the way, it's been my pleasure working with you on and off and continue our relationship with you as well.
I like to say that 1 year in crypto is about 7 years in the real life. So I don't know if we're aging faster or if we're getting wiser faster or if we are in the movie Inception. But certainly the time in crypto is always interesting and things are shifting very fast. Obviously now, after a high for Bitcoin of nearly $70,000 per Bitcoin, we're now down to 20, right? And we've seen that movie before. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And so the first question I have for you, although this is not financial advice, obviously, is would you still suggest that people who are not in crypto, who have not done anything in crypto so far, opened a crypto account with Coinbase or another provider and buy a little bit of crypto? Or would you say, no, don't do it, it's too hard, it's too risky, or it's too late?
So I'm obviously a big believer in blockchain technology and crypto. I would definitely suggest to, if you haven't already, anyone who's listening, open an account in Coinbase or whichever crypto exchange that you have access to. Not because, Bitcoin will go back to like 70K or even 100K or 300K, 1 million, who knows? It may or may not. I don't know. Nobody knows. But the thing is, the crypto is definitely of the blockchain technology is here to stay, and its evolution, even between this turmoil of up and down in terms of the price of Bitcoin, the technology has been advancing so rapidly, right? Right now, we are in a little bit of slow stage, or people call it crypto winter, where the investment or news has been slow, but the development has been, more active than ever. So I think the reason I'm recommending to really get into this sort of, cryptocurrency, sort of opening account and, purchase, even, putting a little bit of money on certain tokens. I think that way you actually take more attention to the crypto because your little bit of your money is there, right? It can be Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin, I would advise Bitcoin, but not as a financial advice, because that sort of is one of the main sort of blockchain technology that influences of overall industry. Because if you are in it, you read more news and you learn more. You're willing to participate more. I think, which is great. Not compared to just as a financial gain or a loss, just learning more this technology and sort of using it when more of the product or service comes out. I think that will really enrich anyone's life. So we'll probably discuss about a little bit more, but this blockchain technology touches so many different aspects. Not just like financially, like DeFi, but metaverse, NFT, and other services or news service, social media. So I think the area that it touches is vast, and I think anyone can find any interesting involvement in this crypto blockchain technology.
To add to this, I would say what I'm about to say is not a financial advice, but it is an educational advice. And my educational advice to everybody listening is that if you've never bought anything crypto related, if you don't own a Bitcoin, an Ethereum, or an NFT, I actually think that you owe it to yourself to take a very small amount, take $10, $100, a small amount, and to buy a little bit of crypto. And the reason why I think you should do it is not financial. It could go to zero, or it could go to very high. It is the education. You will understand why is the whole hype about. Because there's hype, but there's hype for reasons that are justified, in my opinion, because crypto went from zero 13 years ago, 2 or 12 years ago, I guess, to it went up to $3 trillion. Now it's down to $1 trillion. There haven't been in the history of humanity any asset class, anything in business that went from zero to 3 trillion in 10 years. Nothing. So either people are insane, which is always possible. There's a unique collective delusion, right? Or there is something technologically speaking and socially that is unprecedented. And obviously, I think there's something unprecedented here. But to understand it, talking about it doesn't make you understand it. You need to buy a little bit, buy $10. Right? Find a way to do it. Message me if you want any advice of how to do it, and that's going to be a great lesson. One more point, and then I give you back the microphone, saying maybe to explain the definition, starting with what is crypto, and maybe what is Web3, and if you want after that, what is DeFi and NFT. I just want to make one more point. In October, I will be in Dubai, and I will be announcing an extremely exciting and important project in the Web3 world, a sister company to LARVOL. And I cannot tell you more, but I want to tease you into following this. If you want to be informed about it, leave me a message in social media. We'll add you to the list, be informed. Put on your calendar, there's something big happening early October in Dubai, and it has to do with the Web3 project of great ambition, great impact. So now, let's start with the very basic. If I want to explain to my mom what crypto is, what should I say?
Right. It's always not. I think everyone has a different way to explain it. Many different way. It's not always easy. But I think the crypto and Web3 and all this, the way I see it is that the important thing is it gives ownership or control to you rather than the middleman or institute. So I think that's like key thing. I think that drives this crypto blockchain industry.
One image I heard, of course, is the idea that the Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Mm-hmm. And Web 1 is read-only. For example, the Yahoo page, you just read the information to get news or to know about something. Web 2 is read and write. For example, Wikipedia or Yelp, meaning that the community contributes to the experience. So it's user-generated content, read and write. And Web 3 is read, write, and own. So essentially, in addition to being able to get an experience and read information and contribute to it, you can also own. You have ownership. And that's really what defines Web3, is that ownership that you just mentioned. And of course, who says ownership says ownership backed by the blockchain technology. Mm-hmm. So what should I tell my mom that blockchain is?
So the blockchain is database or something data that's visible to everyone. So hence it's sort of fair ownership so that, for example, your bank account is just in, one central location where it's controlled by, one central party or the bank. Whereas with blockchain, you have your own record and everyone has their own record, which can't be tampered. So this is something that, again, ownership is on you rather than some middleman, so that you have transparency in all your data and all your ownership. Like you said, Web2, where you generate your content, for example, like social media or YouTube, where you generate contents, but it's mostly owned by and stored by some company like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Whereas Web3, you actually have the ownership of your content, and ownership doesn't only mean ownership of content or little bit of revenue generating, but also decision making in that platform or that content, so that you have governance part of it, so that you're not just writing or providing content, but also contribute on how it's being run and how its data is being used.
So with blockchain technology, anything that is recorded in that database, maybe we can call it a database or a ledger, is going to be there forever and cannot be changed by anybody, in a sense, right? There's not a central authority that can censor or modify that ledger, and that ledger indicates who owns what. So by definition, that ledger is independent of any banks, any government. It's a non-sovereign source of truth, and therefore it can be used to keep track of who owns what value, what asset, what digital asset. And of course, it has a cost, right? Because maintaining a decentralized ledger without a central point of control is expensive, because we need to replicate the same database on thousands or tens of thousands of computers. And then we need a consensus mechanism that is not centralized as a way of determining what is the truth. Who owns that Bitcoin? Is that Bruno? Is that SangJin? Right? And there's no bank or government to decide. There's no central person who decides. That's really the center of what the blockchain technology is. So I'm sure my mom will understand. I'll try that line with her tonight, SangJin. I'll tell you. I think it might work. I think it might work. Here's what my mom will answer, and I'd like maybe you to help me answer that. She'd say, "Hey, Bruno, but I heard that you people in you guys in you folks in blockchain are killing the environment. You're spending the equivalent energy of one of the Scandinavian countries every year with your Bitcoin." In French, we could say Bitcoin. Some people say Bitcoin. Some people say Bitcoin. So, Bruno, what are you doing? My mom is pretty oriented toward the environment. And she's going to say, that's no good. You're spending all of that energy. So what should I answer to her concerns?
So, I mean, that's definitely a valid concern and good point. And I mean, the way I see this, that, again, as much as I'm a big believer and I'm super excited about this blockchain, and like you said, 1 year in this crypto is like 7 years. So it seems like, I've been here for years and years. We are still far way to go, right? We are still in very early stage. Like you said, the value became like $3 trillion in like 10 years, which is incredible, but still it's very early in the beginning. So, this blockchain technology far from perfect. So there are many ways in technology, also in policy, lawmaking, that we need to improve. And this environmental energy use consumption is one, something that we need, because like you just mentioned, it does require a lot of resource to really manage this huge database or ledger of everyone's ownership. So it does require some energy, but I'm sure and there has been a lot of effort to really make it more efficient in using other technologies. So we'll definitely improve on many areas, including just this energy consumption. But again, this is what's driving the technology and sort of better service and product and more efficient product in the future.
So I understand that of course Bitcoin is the most famous crypto asset, and then there is Ethereum, which is the second most famous crypto asset. I understand that Ethereum is about, maybe in September this year, to make a big shift from one technology called proof of work, which perhaps could be called proof of waste because it's wasting or it's so much energy, to proof of stake, which according to the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, should save 99% of the energy. So my two questions to you as a bit of an insider in the industry, even if you're not necessarily an insider in the Ethereum team, is do you think that Ethereum will be able to do that step, it's called the merge, this year or early next year? And do you believe their claim that it would be 99% more efficient? It would reduce by 99% the cost and maybe time as well of the transaction recording on the blockchain.
So my answer would be yes to both of questions. So in terms of when, I can't really say it would happen this year or early next year, or even later. But I think Ethereum Foundation, they're definitely on track of really making it happen. They're really committed to it. So I think it'll come. I don't know about this year, but I think it'll definitely come. And I don't have specific numbers of a 99%, but I agree with them that it will significantly reduce the energy requirement to maintain that Ethereum blockchain. Again, like I said, we are constantly improving our technology. So I think Ethereum's move to better, more efficient energy resource, among other things, is definitely right way forward. And like you said, since it's the second most popular and better known blockchain technology, I think a lot of other networks or other technology will definitely follow its suit in terms of the efficiency.
I'm optimistic as well. And I will revise my educational advice from earlier. And I would say instead of buying $10 or $100 of Bitcoin, I think people should buy $10 or $100 in Ethereum because because of the environmental factor. In particular, I'm actually although everybody in crypto is very, very attached to Bitcoin. It's called being a Bitcoin maximalist. Some people are, I would even say, violently attached to it to the point of being upset at everybody who's suggesting that Bitcoin is not perfect. And that is sometimes an issue. I got into big fights with people about Bitcoin at that time. I actually recommend that people buy a little bit of Ethereum, and I will even make on the podcast the following the following advertisement. If anybody listening and is not sure. Anybody who's not currently in crypto, okay, you have to not be in crypto, and you have to be listening now. You cannot be listening later on. It's just for people listening now. If you're hesitating, send me a message in social media, and I will send you $10 in Ethereum. Now, don't post that link on social media and then I've got a million people asking, right? You need to be listening now. So it needs to be live, right? I will add a condition, before the end of this. So you have 5 more minutes to post on social media or reach out to me, a message, and then I will send you $10 in Ethereum as a gift.
Nice.
So I hope there's not 1 million people listening to the podcast right now. If not, I'll get in trouble with my wife. So I know we have 5 minutes left. I have a question for you about healthcare. A lot of people, obviously, who are friends of LARVOL are in healthcare. A lot of people listening might be in healthcare. And some people believe that the technology behind Bitcoin, the blockchain, is going to help and have impact in many industries, including healthcare. And I want your opinion about it, but also before asking you, I want to tell that I've been always a skeptic myself, despite the fact that I'm coming from healthcare, in part because once you put something on the blockchain, you cannot delete it. And as soon as we talk about healthcare and medical related compliance, even legal requirement of GDPR, or in the US, it's called the HIPAA, meaning patient privacy law. I can think about so many reasons why the blockchain will be the last place you put anything related to healthcare. But I want you perhaps to disagree with me, because I have very good friends as well in the industry, and you know who you are if you're listening, who have a different opinion. So what do you think of healthcare and blockchain?
So before I say anything, I'm far from expert in this field, but I like to have access to my data, any data, my healthcare data, or the pictures I put on my MySpace, for those who are old enough to remember, or Friendster, like 20 years ago, which I don't have any access to, right? So in terms of healthcare, I've been to hospital probably since like when I was born, and I don't have any data of what I've been doing when I was young, or even like 5 years ago at some clinic. So I think blockchain is definitely helpful in a way that it keeps the data. I think the challenge is, like you mentioned, how it's being used and who has access to what. I think that's a challenge that we need to solve. But I think in big picture of blockchain, the data availability and data access is something that should be very helpful in healthcare, because there's a lot of data driven industry, and I'd like to own my own data.
Well, that might be close to be the word before we close. So we have 2 minutes left. Anything you would like to add, or any takeaway you would like to make for our audience today at LARVOL and Friends?
So I enjoyed this discussion. I think half an hour went too quickly. There are many things that I couldn't touch or cover. Hope to be back sometime soon. But one thing that I want to share with anyone who's listening is, be open and be nimble, because everything's changing. There are a lot of interesting stuff happening in crypto space. So just be open and be nimble, and we'll be facing exciting future.
It's a wonderful way to end the call. Be open and be nimble, and of course, it applies both to the Web3 world and to life and business in general. SangJin, thank you very, very much for joining. We hope to have you again soon. And LARVOL and Friends, we'll see you next Tuesday